Hey, Scott, what breaks up community at church?
Early football games.
Well, let's talk about that.
Well, here we are again with Jeremy Wilford, and we want to talk about things that break up our community as a church. So that sounds like a fun topic. So, what are some of the things that you've noticed that tend to break us up and take us out of unity together?
Well, as a class, we came up with a long list of them, but they were anger and resentment. It was power struggles within the communities. We had unrealistic expectations, and we had unresolved conflict. So we had a lot of things that were personal struggles that people would have in community that would break up even communities with our own church or communities where we live and what we do. So there was no shortage of things that can, break up the communities we have.
Right. And so how do we get there? Like, how do those things take center stage?
Well, what we discussed and what Paul discusses in here is we put ourselves before others. It's all about whether or not I'm getting what I need, and are you providing to me what I need, and are you treating me fairly? Am I getting everything that I deserve from the work that I put in, or how are we working together as a group? And so those are the things that really start breaking up our communities, because we start looking inwards instead of looking outwards.
Yeah. Well, that seems so true. I mean, I know you've seen it. I've seen it. Been on both sides of the fence of breaking up communities and seeing others break up communities just by this longing that we have to be included, to be a part of something. But when we live in that way, with that selfish ambitions inside of us, it always breaks us up. So what happens when we release ourselves to something different? Like what does Paul suggest that would be unifiers for us?
Well, Paul calls out the unifiers in a series of statements called his if statements. And his if statements started with, if you have any encouragement from Christ, if you have comfort from his love, if you have any common sharing of the Spirit, and if you have tenderness and compassion. Well, these are things that we all share.
Yeah.
These are all things that we have together as a community in Christ.
Yeah.
And so Paul's calling these out, saying, if you have these things, then let's model ourselves after Christ. Let's take what you have as a community of faith, and then let's model what Christ did for us. Because Christ was never in it for himself. He had all the power in the world, but he lived as a humble servant to reflect God's love to others. And so what Paul's calling us in these statements is, if you are a part of this community, if you have these things from Christ, then follow him in what he did, which is live humbly, serve others, even though you have all the power in the world to take control. Live in a way that's reflective of his love and his grace by serving others around you and putting others before yourself. These are not easy things to do, but it's definitely our calling through Christ.
I do like that. I think that there's so many times we live out of a deficit. We come into community wanting something that we think we don't have. But what Paul is saying with these if statements is that we have something and we all have it. And maybe that's the challenge this week for us to, when we engage in community, when we get together with each other, is to remind ourselves of these if statements, that we have encouragement from Christ, we have love from Christ, and that we're coming to share that together. And so, let's try that this week. That our prayers would be taking these if statements to be true statements and to say, yes, we have these things.
Yes, that which binds us is stronger than that which breaks us up. And so through these if statements and reflecting on that, I think we can all move forward with a better sense of community.
All right, well, let's try that. If you have any comments, or if you have any experience with this, we'd love to hear about it. So write it in the comments. We want to engage in dialogue with you. So enjoy this week, and we'll come back with a little bit more on this a little bit later. So this is a little teaser for the next installment this week.